Good evening, Bruce. I can tell you one thing you're not going to hear right now. You are not going to hear me attempt to speak Spanish. Nice try, Kenny. Now, I want to take a moment, and I really do want to thank some of our special guests tonight. We have guests from our embassy and from the Joint Task Force Bravo, Colonel Navarro, Major Duarte, Sergeant Major, and Colonel Hughes. Really appreciate both of you being here. Major, welcome back to the MAGTF. With us on our next mission. So. Before I introduce the guest of honor, I want to mention one thing to you. The 4th Marine Division Commander was here a few days ago, and many of you got the opportunity to meet General Lebedine and his Sergeant Major. And I don't remember what group of people we were speaking to. I don't think it was the whole MAGTF. I think it was a group from the MAGTF. I think it may have been the division. But there was a group of Marines that he asked a question, and he asked, the Sergeant Major asked, what is it that you are most proud of during this deployment? And to me, it was very quickly, it was running through my mind the things that I'm most proud of in this deployment. And I want to tell you that what I'm most proud of is having had the opportunity to serve alongside each one of you. And I've watched you aggregate at Camp Lejeune, and I've watched you go through a great deal of training and certification and getting prepared to come to Central America. And I watched a lot of other people watch you. I watched 2MEF and MAR4 Res, MAR4 South, and a lot of people watching how you did it. And a lot of people were watching you as you took this MAGTF and you brought it to Central America. After coming to Central America safely in a very complex movement, dispersing the MAGTF and conducting operations throughout Central America, over the past 6 months. And all of those things that you've done have been an absolute success. And that's what I was thinking of when the Sergeant Major asked that question. What are you most proud of? And quite frankly, watching you do all those things that you've done over the last 6 months have made me extremely proud to be a part of this unit. Okay, so I'll tell you, simplify, and it's been an honor. Okay, let me introduce to you our guest of honor, Mr. Patrick Brent. Patrick Brent is from Chicago, Illinois. Currently lives in Honolulu. Mr. Brent is a corporal. He joined corporals do rule the world. You're right. So, Mr. Brent joined 3rd Squad, 2nd Platoon, Echo Company 224 in Chicago, Illinois in 1961. He served honorably, and then he left the Marine Corps. And he left the Marine Corps and became a businessman. In his life as a businessman, he's achieved a great deal of success. And I think that if you take a moment to ask him after the dinner is over what made him a success, he'll look at you and he'll tell you that being in the United States Army was the one item, the one thing that he did in his life that made him absolutely a success. So I'm not going to go through all of the lists of the things that he's done. He doesn't want to hear that. But I'll tell you that he's been extremely successful as a civilian. And, what does a successful person do later on in your life when they love being a Marine? And what he chose to do is he chose to write about Marines. Okay, he's deployed on numerous occasions to both Iraq and Afghanistan. He's embedded himself in aviation units, in infantry units, in logistics units, and he spent a great deal of time with Marines in the deserts, in faraway countries, learning about Marines and writing stories about them Corps that you heard the comment talk about. So without further ado, Mr. Brick, we welcome you, and thank you for honoring us by being at our birthday ball. Marines. Marines. You know, this is what I call an expeditionary Marine birthday ball. By the way, even though my rank of corporal was mentioned over and over again, I know a second lieutenant that coming once after his commission received a corporal's warrant from his own unit. And I won't mention his name, but he's a colonel. Police Company Army is the most sharply aggressive and disciplined fighting force in the world. You could get, you know, you don't have to have any beverages here. I'll tell you, this atmosphere, one could get intoxicated just being here. A few months back, a rather outstanding Sergeant Major, and he reminded me last night, much to his chagrin, that every birthday talk, or Chaplain Marines, rates a good sea story. Does anybody here know the definition of a good sea story? That's close. It's actually, a good sea story doesn't allow reality to get in the way. My sea stories, the first one's goes way into the future. Kind of a time machine. I had a vision last night. And this vision's about a very high up, 4-star Army general. We're talking about the year 2008. He's really old. He passes away. This general arrives at heaven. And of course the gates are guarded by Marines, which kind of rankles him a little bit. And so he goes to St. Peter, introduces himself, and St. Peter says, General Brian Hughes, U.S. Marines. I mean, U.S. Army. He says, General Hughes, you're certainly an exemplary gentleman and officer, and you're very much welcome in heaven, and we're prepared for you. But then the general says, excuse me, St. Peter, I've been here a long time, and I have one small request. St. Peter's, well, what is it? He says, well, I'd like to be in a section of heaven where there are no U.S. Marines. St. Peter says, well, how come? He says, well, I recognize that the most extraordinary fighting force in the world, but nonetheless, they told it to me all the time. I served with the Marines. They have more arrogance, self-confidence, and hubris than anyone should have, and I'd like to have St. Peter says, well, that's an unusual request, but it works out because you're going in a section that has no Marines. It's called the Truman MacArthur section. So he gets in his golf cart. It's got 4 stars on it. It's got a Boston Patriots logo on the front. It's got Tennessee license plates. And he drives off to the Truman MacArthur section, and he's driving around, having a pretty good time. And about day 3, he gets to the major intersection here. Major intersection. It's intersection of Notre Dame Circle and St. Patrick Way, and he sees a giant cement block there, about 4 foot square, and standing tall is a at least 7 foot man dressed in kind of a khaki outfit, standing on top of this block, and he's ordering traffic around. As is, drop, give me 10, parade rest, and he's giving all these very, very gunnery sergeant type commands, and General Hughes just transfixed and getting steam.
So he gets in his golf cart and goes right back to St. Peter. He says, St. Peter, I can't believe you would lie to me. St. Peter said, what's the problem, Brian? St. Peter called him Brian. He says, I was at the intersection of Notre Dame Circle, and I saw this giant man on the block, and I could recognize him right when I see him. St. Peter smiles, and he says, General Hughes, that's not a Marine, that's God. You see, General Hughes, God always wished he had been a Marine. My last and final sea story, Sergeant Major, I wanted to share him, I wasn't going to tell any more. My last sea story is, I guess the theme is Once a Marine. General Christmas, the founder of our museum, at a Naval Academy banquet a while back, he said there's something special about being a Marine. He says, you know, when you finish your training at Quantico or Paris Island, the only boot camp, when you finish your training, there's some mystical force that comes down, some mystical hands, and they open up your chest cavity, and hot iron goes in there and it brands the eagle glow and egg. And I'm going to tell you a sea story, a real one. It goes back to the year 1901. It's in County Donegal, Ireland. An Irish family due to hard times immigrated to New York, opened up a little grocery store in Brooklyn. After a couple years, they had some children and things went bad. The mother dies, it was hard times, and the father took the son, young Mike. And he sends Michael out to another family member in Montana. Michael gets there, he's about 13, 14 years old. Things are really going bad, and Montana's in no schools, things are tough. So Michael joins the Navy. It's 1918, World War I started. He joins the United States Navy at the age of 14. About a year later, the Navy figures out he's 14, and they toss him out. Goes back to Montana, waits a year or two, joins the U.S. Army. Probably going to be an aviator. And joins the Army, serves a hitch in the Army, comes back to Montana. This is when young Michael saw the light, the great light. On 10 November 1920, exactly, 96 years ago today, Mike joined the Marine Corps. Mike served a hitch in the Marine Corps, and he was in the Philippine insurrection, served his time in the Marine Corps, China, the Philippines, came back, discharged, honorably discharged, came back to Montana, and went to work in the mines. Now he became a mucker. You know, I don't know what muckers do, but I'm not sure I like the job. And but at the same time, remember, no education. He met a school teacher named Maureen, and he married her. And she worked with him when he wasn't working, and he got his equivalencies and got his education. And in a couple of years, he passed the entrance exam for the University of Montana. He secured his bachelor's degree and his master's degree and became a professor there at the University of Montana. And he's all of a sudden, he's not young Mike anymore, but he's well respected and he's doing well. And he becomes, he runs for Congress and becomes elected to the U.S. Congress from Montana for 7 terms, 14 years. Right after that, he runs for the Senate and gets elected for 24 years. And while he's with the Congress, he passed the first Equal Rights Bill, and he passed the Douglas-Mansfield Bill. Because at that time, a guy named Harry Truman was trying to shut down the Marine Corps. So he and this other Marine got together and passed the first bill for the Marine Corps that guaranteed parity for the Commandant and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and it guaranteed by law 3 infantry divisions and 3 air wings permanently, making sure that these malcontents could not dissolve the Marine Corps. Harry Truman said things like, does America need a Marine Corps? It was answered by a gentleman named Bruce Krulak that said, America may not need a Marine Corps, but America wants one. Going back to Michael's career, Michael tries to retire after 24 years in the Senate, but they sent him to Japan as the ambassador. He's there for 12 years. He was outstanding. He was outstanding. And they built a monument to him in Japan. Came back for 12 years, tried to retire again, but both parties liked him. Very rare. And they sent him on other assignments. But finally, this guy named Mike, at the age of 98, year 2001, passes away. The question is, where would he be buried? They wanted to build, they named a library at the University of Montana after him. They wanted to build a gravesite for him at the university. And several VIPs and the government wanted to put him up on the hill there with the eternal flame at Arlington. He's one of the most respected Americans of all time. But he chose where he wanted to be buried. Now remember, all this guy's credentials: Navy, Army, Marines, Congress, Senate, Ambassador, every title a man could have. Well, he's buried in a plain marker, a plain white marker at Arlington, an obscure section. It's Section 2, marker 4969. I know because it took me about an hour and a half to find it. And his marker looks just like all the other military men there. And on that marker it says, Michael Joseph Mansfield, Private, U.S. Marines. Everything you could have. As you may know, I've been embedded, as the commanding officer stated, I've been embedded in various countries and I've served with Marines. And I want you to know, I wondered at times if I even wore the same fabric that you fellows wear, because our Marines today are the best Marines we've ever had. As I travel, and I travel quite a bit, I go to corporations, schools where I lecture, and other places, and I've had young people ask me, modern young people, 99% have never served their country, they ask me where they would perhaps learn leadership. And they don't like the answer, so I give it to them straight off. I didn't learn leadership in any corporation or any college 101 course. I learned it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from every NCO and officer I met at Little Island off the coast of South Carolina. Why? Because they're embedded, they're immersed in a culture of excellence, founded in virtue and discipline. Semper Fidelis, Marines. Marines, join me in a toast. A toast to 241 years of romping, stomping Marines.
Our Sergeant Major is going to present a gift to Mr. Hunt.
Can you hear me? Yeah! All right. I hate microphones. All right, so we brought this little bottle of scotch for PTB, okay? And we would hope that at times in his life he would take it off the shelf, dust it off, and drink to the health of the Corps and remember this night.